Hey, secret friends, welcome back to the Spotlight. This is, of course, our show where we talk to the folks in the pop culture space that make the things that we love. And I'm very excited to be joined by a true legend of comics, Mr. Marv Wolfman. Marv, good evening to you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So I have just had the great pleasure of talking to a lot of people who kind of walk the walk. Just the other night, I talked to Joe Duffy. She was a very cool person to speak to, and I know that you guys worked together for years. I'm sure, but I've talked to a lot of your cohorts in comics, and so I always
What,
start
I,
things.
what was this that you talked to them?
Well, when I talked to Joe, it was just the other night.
No, I mean, was it live or was it on Zoom or
Oh,
Zencaster?
it's always just like this. I always conduct my interviews like this. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I always start the interviews in the exact same way. Talk to me about how you got started in the business.
As a fan, after I saw an episode of the original TV show Superman back in the 1950s, I went out and bought my very first comic
Yeah.
and I was hooked.
Yeah.
From that point on, I write letters to the comic companies when they had letter columns, and Julie Schwartz printed the phone numbers and addresses of the people who wrote the letter columns.
No.
So,
Oh boy.
which today they wouldn't do. They
Oh
probably
no.
wouldn't. But back then in the 50s, they were no problems. And within a few days, though, I got a couple of fanzines sent to me because the people who were publishing fanzines were trying to get more people in there.
Right.
And I got these copies, and I was oh my goodness, I could do that,
Right.
and I did.
Wow, awesome. So I'll take a little side cut here because before I get back to talk about comics, but I love GI Joe, like because I'm an '80s kid. I was born in the late 1970s, grew up in the early '80s, and you were involved in that great. And my camera's pointing the wrong way, but I have a beautiful original poster from that TV show because my mom worked at a station that aired it back in the
Uh,
'80s. But you were responsible for some episodes of that show.
yeah, I wrote a
Um,
couple.
yeah, so I was introduced to your work before the age of 8. But talk to me about, being outside of comics. Talk to me about your screenwriting credits. What other kinds of, genre stuff did you work on? What's a favorite? What's maybe one that you're like, "Oh, that was a really tough assignment," or "I really didn't care for it." Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, in the case of GI Joe, the story editor, who was Steve Gerber, from Marvel Comics. He did Howard the Duck and all those things.
Yeah.
Steve Gerber asked me if I'd like to try to write an episode of a GI Joe. I had never written animation before, but he sent me a script so I'd know the format, and I had a great time writing it. And they offered me a position as a producer, but I was moving from New York to California, so I had to turn it down. So they made me a story editor. Uh, and I got to story edit for Transformers while I was writing same company. I was
Yeah.
writing some GI Joe stuff,
Yeah. Gotcha.
and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, did you ever rub shoulders with Larry Hama? He was one of my first big interviews and a huge fan of his work.
Larry, of course, worked at Marvel, so
Right.
I knew him well.
Right. Yeah.
Good guy,
Interesting.
very nice guy.
Yeah. I mean, he and I talked about a year or so ago, and that was one of my. I've been
Yeah,
doing these interviews for about 2 years, and he was one of my bucket list ones because I'm such a.
yeah.
I read
Well,
every issue of that GI Joe comic
he
many
pretty
many
much
times
did
over.
it. He pretty much created half that stuff.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, yeah, we we've talked. We've got we whole bunch of us went to see him in a play that he was actually in
Oh
because he was
wow.
yeah, on Broadway. Pacific Overtures, was it
Okay.
something? I think it was that one.
Wow.
Uh, and I see him at conventions all the time, and we talk and such. So good
Yeah.
guy, good guy.
Yeah, no, I really like chatting with him a lot. So one of the very thinking outside of Marvel, I'm a Marvel nut and I just dabble in DC. But one of the obviously most famous things you were involved with during kind of my childhood at DC was the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is what a story, and
Thank you.
it's very dense. I mean, I'll be honest with you, being somebody who doesn't have that background, it's there's a lot to it, particularly when you're that young trying to read it. So I'm probably due for a reread because it's been several years, but I mean, that
Well,
was
let me tell
41.
let, let me
Yeah,
tell
no,
you that DC just released uh, a brand new version of the Crisis.
Okay.
Um, um, it's well, I've gotten my contributor copy, so it's there. I don't.
Yeah.
It'll be on sale either this week or next week or something like that. What's brilliant about this one, and it's the ultimate one, is that it's also much larger in page. The actual page size is much larger, so you get to see George Perez's artwork so much better.
Wow.
It's a
Tell
really
me
great
about
one.
yeah, tell me about that experience. I mean, George, I met George at a convention a number of years back, and obviously he's, he's passed away, but such a gentleman and such an incredible talent. Like, how did that story come about? Tell me all about it.
Well, came about because we were trying. We always found that, or rather, the fans have found that DC's backstory with all the multiple Earths, with all the multiple characters, was confusing to new readers.
Sure.
And some fan wrote a letter to us saying you should really do something about it. And that stuck with me. And I came up with an idea because I couldn't help it. I wasn't trying to. It just all came to me,
Yeah.
and I pitched it to DC, and they loved the idea and gave me the go ahead. But I said it's going to take time. It's going to be about 5 years because we have to do research. There's so much that has to be done, and we have to do this right. And
Yeah.
amazingly, they said yes to the fact that it could be 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I spent the time going over books and all that sort of stuff, and I kept working on the plot every until all the things that I could find were fixed. All the stuff that needed to be fixed could be fixed in the Crisis, the resulting book.
Wow. That's great, and that's it's one of those stories that's just continued to proliferate. There's been sequels upon sequels to it, and and then the multiversal stuff with DC, like the absolute line that they have right now, Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Those are the most popular books in the industry right now. Like those books continue to sell into. I know I just going to my local comic shop here. They're going into seventh and eighth printings of the individual issues. So I mean, people have a real taste for the multiversal stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's great. All right, well, let's talk about the thing that I love the most in comics, and that's the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm actually rereading Spider-Man right now. I have a summer reading project for myself. I've talked about this on my shows where I'm reading every issue of the Amazing Spider-Man from the 1970s, which is the decade I was born in. So I'm about halfway through, and I know you picked up kind of close, like because it's the 100s. I think I started at 80 and I'm ending at about 200. So you were writing in kind of the late hundreds, like maybe around 180 through like 200, because I was doing some research. So, but that was during the time when early 1970s Marvel Team Up started. Late 1970s was 76 that Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man started. So there was like this umbrella of ongoing Spider-Man titles. So a kind of a continuity or a group, like they would say it like Star Wars now, because they have crossing over stuff. What was it like in those kind of early days to be part of a character that was in multiple books like that, to control continuity? Like who was the group editor? Like what did conversations sound like? I mean, how did that work early on?
Well, I was my own editor.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
that helps.
that helps. Um, and what was it? We just all well, first of all, we all lived in New York back then,
Right, right.
and we all met up at the office because we would probably on a Friday or so and go out to dinner and talk, and we talk about all this stuff and worked out the details um, as to what I wanted to center on Peter's life, his home life, his real life with his friends, his people, and all that. And I also wanted to get back to the insecurities he had. Um, I had him married. He was married. I had nothing to do with it, to Mary Jane at the time, and I kept thinking Peter Parker, who was the ultimate loser character, would never get Mary Jane. There's no way on earth.
Right,
So when he proposed to her, in my book, she said no.
right.
And we moved on from there because I wanted to get back to the fact that this guy was sort of nerdy.
Yeah,
Uh, and that was his charm. That was the strong point. And getting him married, I thought was the wrong thing to do without building up the character first for maybe a couple of years more with that in mind, rather than
Yeah.
just spring a marriage on him.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you know, you started out, gosh, Tomb of Dracula, I think, was one of your earliest works, which is pretty cool. You co-created the Black Cat, you co-created Blade, and Blade was the first. That was the first big superstar MCU movie character in the late 1990s. Who Wesley Snipes, who recently made a return in the Deadpool film, and then over at DC was Crisis, the Teen Titans, huge work on Teen Titans, which my wife and I just finally watched that Titans show that was on HBO Max several years ago, and they got me to go back and reread you starting that show, and I love that first issue, the Titans Tower, the big T. I
Yeah.
thought was like a super cool headquarters. So, if you, I mean, you've created, you know, and you work for Superman, you did Crisis, and of course, what is the one thing, if you put it all together, that is your absolute like pinnacle achievement, your very favorite thing?
You have a favorite child?
Absolutely. No, I'm just no, that's a great question. It's a good contrast. I think I know where you're going.
Uh, they they either work or they don't work as story characters, but
Yeah.
I really like them all because I spend a lot of time creating them.
Yeah.
So the ones that work, I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Gotcha. What I was gonna say, but I'm like, but which one? All right. So Marvel DC.
I am wearing a vigilante shirt. Uh,
I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, is that Deadpool or is
no,
that okay?
that's
Yeah. So
vigilante,
vigilante like from Peacemaker, right?
right?
That vigilante. Yeah. Oh my god, I absolutely you didn't create Peacemaker, did you?
No, I bet I created vigilante.
Okay, okay, yeah, I absolutely adore that show. I don't know. Hey, do you have much familiarity with the show that's been on HBO for the last
Yeah,
few
of
years?
course, of
Yeah.
course. One of my characters is in it. Of course, I'm going to watch it.
Right. Yeah. Watch it for yourself. And I love that. How okay, so you spurned another question off the top of my head. How much like the character you created is what we see portrayed in that show?
Not very much, but I'm thrilled by it because they he's played as more of a loony bin character,
Right.
and I think the actor who does it does a great job. So it's not
Yeah.
very similar, but I like what they've done,
Yeah.
even though it's
Yeah.
not close to the original.
Right, right. But yeah, I think they spin a good yarn. And I didn't know anything about the Peacemaker character at all before seeing him in, I think it was the Suicide Squad, the second one they made. But I like John Cena, and I'm not a wrestling guy, but I like him as a performer. I think he's very entertaining.
Yeah.
So kind of enjoyed the show for that reason. So okay, so painting the brush outside of Marvel and DC, like other works that you've done, what's something that comes to mind that in your career that you're particularly fond of, or you remember fondly, or maybe you don't remember that fondly that exists outside of the big two?
Again, I tend to try to take work that I'm going to be interested in.
Sure.
I worked for several years in video games, for instance, and
Okay.
I
Yeah.
really
Tell me
love
about
doing
that.
that. No,
Yeah.
video game writing is very different from either comic books or movies or animation or anything else. So it's something that I was really excited. Also, I'm a video game player,
Sure.
so
Oh, okay.
I was really happy to write several of those scripts.
Gotcha.
So if you know that I've written animation, I enjoy doing everything because I think when you're writing one field, it helps you with another because it opens
Yeah.
up your mind to different ideas.
Okay. Gotcha. What I and again, I'm not much of a video game guy, but tell me a little bit about an accomplishment in that field. How did you get into doing video games? There's a question.
As always, I was asked.
Oh,
Somebody, we were doing the Superman game from what 10, 15 years ago,
okay.
um, and being a Superman expert, they called me in. And what happened was the co-writer that I was working with didn't have the time to really do his stuff uh, because he was going to write the video game material. I was going to write the backstory material, and so he said, "Look, you can you handle both?" I said, "But I don't know how to do it." He said, "I'll walk you through it." I'll tell you what, you know story, you know how to do that. It's all the rest of the stuff is format. So, and how to know how to put the stuff together to work for a video game. Fortunately, video game writing isn't that far from animation writing
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's all movement and characters doing such like this. So I was asked, they liked what I did. Then I wrote some more. I wrote different characters. I did Batman. I did all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. What's a Batman game you've been involved in? Is it one of those Arkham Knight? Is it one of those real big ones that people notice?
Yeah, was that, and also one that was finished but never came out of on Dark Knight.
Oh, gotcha. Excellent. Very good. So you kind of got things started with Superman. That was kind of your first superhero. So, and you've worked on Superman. So you've really kind of gone the gauntlet of working, on probably almost every character out there. Is there any character you've not ever worked on that you're like, man, I'd love to write a story for that?
Slowly, I've written pretty much anything. At one point, and people laugh when I say it, but I mean it seriously. At one point, I would have loved to have written Popeye. He
Why
was.
is that?
I love the animated Popeye cartoons from the 40s. You
Oh
know,
man.
from those were great.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have written it. Now I now know not so much, but back then I would have.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what boy, it's been a quick conversation. But I've read so much of your stuff, I probably couldn't even have quantified just how much of your stuff I've enjoyed. So God, thank you for
Thank you.
spending time talking to me. What are you working on right now? What have you got in the chamber?
I'm working on a graphic novel, um, and I'm working my way through the script right now. It's 250 pages. It's a
Whoa.
big one, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a while.
Yeah. Oh, how exciting. And how about upcoming convention appearances, or how do people get in touch with you if they want to stay current on what you're working on?
There's no future convention appearances set right now. I'm not traveling all that much,
Okay.
um, and I haven't figured out because I generally only sign at conventions.
Okay.
I don't like signing at home or anything.
Okay.
Um, so I haven't yet figured out how to do that, how to set that
Okay.
up.
Gotcha. So you do you post on social media at all? People find you on Facebook or Instagram,
Yeah,
anything like that?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky.
Okay.
I'm on Threads.
Okay.
But I don't post a lot. But for a while, and then I'll stop posting all over the place. Then I'll stop for a while. It's,
Yeah. You're a gorilla, like guerrilla attacks of social media, right? Just kind
yeah.
of sneak in there. So, well, cool. Well, I will list those so people can, follow you and be aware of kind of what you're doing. But yeah, God, thank you for sitting down with me. Like I said, huge fan of your work, and
My
it's
pleasure.
it's a
Thank you.
it's a big thrill to talk to you. So, listeners, thanks for tuning in. Definitely visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, where you can find all of our great interviews and all of our content, like my chat with Marv Wolfman. Marv, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.